Blessed be everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk about witchy salt. Not just black salt, but witchy salt. This is not going to have a specific recipe in it. I can do ones like that if anybody's interested. I was just going to talk about it in general. And over here, I'm trying something different. I have used these oil burners to burn other things, but I am going to see if it will burn my Kyphi. I talk about my Kyphi incense in a couple other videos, but Kyphi incense, and this is not about salt, but we'll just go with it since it's sitting here, is ancient Egyptian temple incense. And from what I read, what they have concluded, or a good guess, is that Kyphi is not one specific recipe, but it is just a term used for temple incense. And I looked up a lot of different recipes, and I did stick with some of the basics and then kind of changed it up for myself. So in here, excuse me, I had put the aluminum foil on here just because this is very sticky. I had one tea light going in there. It wasn't getting hot enough, so I have put another tea light upside down underneath it to hopefully get more heat. It is getting warmer. I don't know if this will work, but I'm just going to have it sitting here to see what happens. Again, I've used these oil burners to burn other resins. Sometimes I put oil in it and let the resin soak in, usually with a oil that doesn't have much of a smell, but Kyphi is very different. It's extremely potent. The bit that's in there came off of this little pea-sized pebble because, like I said, it's very potent. I absolutely love it, though. And we'll just let it kind of go off to the side while I talk about witchy salt. A lot of people have heard of black salt. There's different ways to make black salt. A lot of people that are new will see online black salt that is pure black. It is extremely black salt that looks like that-ish. And if you can see that. And actually, this is black Himalayan salt. It's actually edible. That's why I have to put on some of my stuff around the house that it's edible. And you can use that as black salt if you want. But in a lot of cases, when the term black salt is used, it is often not truly black, but is usually made with charcoal and ash. And so it doesn't produce a super black look to it. This has some of the black Himalayan salt mixed in it, so it is a bit darker. Excuse me again. But oftentimes the black salt isn't pure black. Now, I did go online at one time, and I don't have the results because I tossed them, but people have taken white salt, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, I'm just doing a little bit of explaining, and whether it be fine salt or coarse salt, and use some kind of dye. And this is candle dye. Got this at there. I do use this when making some of my homemade candles that I want to be black. There's also this, which is food coloring, and it is super black, and it is definitely super black. And it's kept in this bag because, boy, will it get all over everything. But you can use either of those if you want and make that really, really deep black salt. You're going to have to dry it. And I will say that that candle dye left a scent. No matter how long I left the black salt out to aerate and to dry, the one made with the candle wax or the candle dye did have a light odor to it. The food coloring didn't, but and that's totally fine. Nothing wrong with any of those if that's what you want to do. But again, more traditionally, and you know, I'm do whatever floats your boat, but people will burn in a cauldron, or you know what I showed before in my cauldron video, some kind of heat safe thing. You can do it on a charcoal disc if you want, and then you burn certain herbs that match your intention. Okay, and then you use that ash, and you used the burnt remnants of whatever you burned, and make a mix. Now, some people will just use salt and crunch up a piece of charcoal. And it can be a piece of barbecue charcoal. It can be a piece of coal. Whatever you have on hand, whatever your intention is. And this one, of course, you can see, like I said, there's some of the black Himalayan salt in there. There's some eggshells. There's some other items that have been burned. And this was for a specific purpose. It's in a baggie because it was going to be mailed. And again, when I mail most of my witchy stuff, I always put some kind of salt in there. And I usually put it in a plastic baggie just for shipping purposes. The recipient can put it in whatever kind of vessel they want to put it in. Here's another kind that is not black, but it is a witchy salt mix. And again, I said this video wasn't going to be purely on black salt, so I love my salt mixes. Next to my herbs, it's my favorite thing, and I have salt mixes all over my apartment. Everywhere. Well, okay, not everywhere, but pretty darn near everywhere. This is another mix. Some of my mixes have stones in them. These are crow feathers, and they look kind of torn up just because I have spent time with them. And like I said, this one has stones at the top. Some of mine have stones mixed in. Some I've layered, where I'll do a salt mix and then herbs and then a stone. And then I'll go up just whatever I'm feeling at the time. I really let that drive what I'm making. I only have a couple of salt recipes per se that when I send to somebody, I like to write down what I put in them, what they're made of. But oftentimes I'm doing whatever floats my boat. I do rarely ever repeat the same process. I do have a couple go-tos, but that is what it is. And then this is my blueberry salt. And you're going to see the chunks of blueberry in it. This thing is probably pushing 3 years old. I use it very sparingly. It was pretty full and for a very specific purpose. It is literally fresh blueberries done in what you would consider a ritual. So there was a process I did. I put the blueberries in, and then I smashed them in with the salt. And it doesn't turn blue. It turns more purple, and then over the years it dries. Salt is used oftentimes to preserve things, so it's not bad for you. It's not dangerous for you. And again, I use this for a very specific purpose, and it has stayed in here all that time. And in the other video, you might have saw this little broom. I think I got it at Michael's, but I often use this when I want to do something like this. It's kind of inventive, but I just swirl it around. Some collects on here, and then I'll sprinkle it over whatever I'm doing. I don't have something I'm doing right now, so you can do that. You can pinch it with your hand. I love using my hands a lot of times, but sometimes I like using something like that. You can often also make your own. This is lemongrass, and it's just bound with a rubber band, and it sits in this bowl. But I don't know, to use it to mix up stuff, it just feels very witchy, you know? Okay, that's not salt related. I'll stop. But then there is another kind of salt. I make so many salts. I don't know. I could talk about salt forever and a day. This is a protection salt mix I made. And because there's liquid that I added to it, it's hard as a rock. It looks scary and creepy and stuff like that, but it's not. This was a protection oil that I had made that had a lot of juniper berries and dragon's blood in it, so it was very dark. And I just carved the symbol I wanted, made some things, and I poured it in there over and over until I got the look I wanted. Of course, as it aged, the coloration is going to be different. The cool thing about stuff like this, and there's some ash in here because I actually burned something over it and let the ash fall. And it's in one of those dollar store bowls. Like I said, I use these a lot. The nice thing about a salt mix like this too is, again, if you put liquid in it, it's going to dry very, very hard. But if you're done with it, if it's done with its purpose, if you want to change it out, you can literally run it under water. That all loosens out and it'll come right out very, very easily. But until then, this, like I said, this is hard as a rock. I love doing these as well. This may seem very weird to people, but I just want to talk about salt. I love salt. If there is an intention you want, like I said, you can burn the herbs or resins or whatever and use the whole thing in some salt. You can use just plain salt. If you use the ashes, any of the salt with a lot of stuff like this in it, especially with these in it, or even this Himalayan salt, it's going to leave discoloration on your hands and whatever you put it on. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to go staining something and then be upset with yourself afterwards. But you can make small jars. This is a protection jar. This does not have salt in it. I'm just showing it for option. You can use it in a witch ball. You can put them in whatever kind of vessel you want. And this is actually a protection jar that I did that has everything from outside. Now these juniper berries in here, I personally did not collect, but they were given to me by a friend who is local, so I do consider them local. Everything else, pine cone and pine and cedar, I collected myself from right outside. You can put dirt from outside, whatever you want, but you could add salt to that as well. This is getting hot. These are kind of sticky, but I'm not sure this is going to work. Might take a long time. Kyphi is pretty intense. I love it. But see that black Himalayan salt? It's not coming off just with even just rubbing. I'm going to have to wash it to get it off. So again, keep that in mind. But I just wanted to say salt isn't just salt. Salt is pretty amazing magic-wise. And the opportunities and the different ways you can use it are endless. But again, you don't have to get this fancy. You can get some salt. It's all about your intent. Now, my thing is, you don't take some salt, throw it in a bowl, walk away, and expect it to do something. My belief is you really have to put your intent and your power in it. You got to focus on it. You got to, if you can, cleanse whatever you're going to put it into first and consecrate that, or talk to it, tell it what part it's going to play in what you're doing, and then talk to the salt. Now, oftentimes I will put it in my hands and hold it and talk to it and spend time with it, and other times I don't touch it at all. All depends on what feels right at the time. But you could take a little bowl or little container, put just salt in it, and then just hold it. You know, again, hold it, talk to it, tell it what the intention is for the purpose that you're having. I'm watching my Kyphi at the same time, sorry. And then it becomes infused with your power and your intent. You just pour it in and leave it thinking it's going to do what you want it to do. It very likely will not happen. Also, too, if your emotions or your mood doesn't match your intent, you can also see some issues there. Again, if you're doing a love spell and you're really pissed off, you might have an issue. So anyhow, I'm going to cut this off here. Just wanted to do a very, very wide overview of witchy salt. If you are interested in any specific type of witchy salt, or you would like me to go more in depth on any part of this, please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, hit subscribe and the little bell so you get notified when I upload more videos. Blessed be.